Hello, this is Kilo Echo Zero Bravo Sierra Juliet, and my name is Charles, and today we are going to show you how to create address labels for direct contacts using the built-in report builder in the N7XG Golf Logger program. Alright, let's get this show on the road. Okay, first thing you need to do is go to Reports and open Report Explorer. Now hopefully you guys have watched my other videos and you have created a My Reports folder, and so because that's where we're going to create the folder or create the address labels. Okay, so let's click on My Reports folder and click on New Report. Now what we're going to do is, since there is so many different types of labels out there, what you're going to have to do is just find the labels you want to use and then measure all the pertinent margins and spacings and stuff like that on your labels. So what I am going to do is I'm going to create the labels using Avery, let's see, what are they? Avery 8162s. These are 1.33 inches tall and 4 inches wide, and there's 14 labels to a sheet, and I figured for me that's a good number of direct contacts before I print and start mailing out, because you will want to wait until you get that number so you don't waste any labels or anything like that. Some of the address labels, the smaller address, that you got 30 labels to a page, and therefore, so you don't waste labels, you're going to have to wait till you have 30 direct contacts before you mail them out. Now some people may like that. Personally I don't. I like to get them out as soon as possible. That way we're not waiting and they're not waiting, and hopefully we'll get a QSL card back. So that's why one of the reasons I like the 14 labels to a page. That way I can wait until I have 14 directs, and that's pretty good number for me to handle and to mail out. So what you have to do then is get your measurements off the sheet of labels that you're going to use. Now you'll need the top margin, the bottom margin, the left and right margins, and the horizontal spacing between the actual labels themselves, and if there's any vertical spacing. Now with my labels, the 8162s, the top margin is 0.875 inches, as well as the bottom is 0.875 inches. So let's go ahead and go into File and Page Setup, and this is where we'll actually enter that information. The printer you can pretty much leave alone. You need to make sure that you're using 8.5 by 11s or whatever size labels you are. Most of them are 8.5 by 11, but yours may be different. And then you want to make sure you're in portrait. Paper source, you can change that if you need to. I'm not going to go into any reasoning behind that. Now the page layout and the margins is the one we're really worried about. So I've already got this set up. I put my top margin in, and it is 0.875, same as my bottom, and the left and right margins are 0.15 or 0.15663, 0.1563. So my top, bottom, and left and right margins are entered. Then we'll go over here to layout. Now mine, there's two columns, so I'm going to make sure I've got two columns there, and the columns are 4 inches wide. Now the first column will print at 0 because I already got my margins in there, and then the second column will start printing at 0.4 inches. Since my labels are 4 inches wide and I have got a horizontal spacing between the labels, of 0.1875. So then you add those two numbers together and you come up with 4.187. That's what that number is right there. And it just changed on me. So to the column width up here, 4, 0, and 4.1875. Then we can go ahead and make the column traversal is top to bottom, so it'll print out top. It'll start at the top and work its way to the bottom, then go to the next column. Now you can change that to left and right. So the first one will print here, the second one will print there, then it'll go down, left and right like that. Personally, I like top to bottom, so it'll print from the top all the way to the bottom on the first column, then it'll go to the second column. That's what I like. And there's your row spacing. Most labels don't have any row spacing between the labels, so most of the time that's going to be left at 0. Okay, now we need to go out here to Data tab, and we need to bring in the contacts table, and hopefully you've watched my previous videos to know how to do that. So if you didn't, well, I'll take it and kind of explain it along the lines. So we'll want to go to File and then New, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on Query Wizard, find the contacts table over here, double click on it, and it's going to put it over there. Now we go ahead and click Next. We're going to go ahead and bring all, well, we only need one field here, so we're going to go ahead and choose the fields on this one. And there's a field in the contacts label called Address. So we're going to scroll down until we can find Address. There it is. We're going to go ahead and double click on it. Or if you didn't want to double click on it, you can use these arrows here. This brings one over, that brings all of them over, that puts one of them back, and then that puts all of them back. So let's go ahead and click Next. We're not going to need any calculations fields. We're not going to mess with grouping, and we need to limit the rows, so we're going to define some search criteria. So we're going to go ahead and define a search criteria of we want only directs, and we only want to bring in the rows that has not been printed before already. So what we're going to do now is right click here, we're going to insert criteria, then we have to scroll down here until we find a field that is called QSL info right there, and we want it equal to direct. And we'll choose OK. Now we're going to right click again, and we're going to enter in another criteria, and we want it to QSL sent, a field called QSL sent right there, and we want that to equal to no, because if we haven't sent a card, that field would be no. If we've already sent a card, that field would be yes or Y. And then so we'll choose OK on that, and we're going to click Next. You can set a sort order here if you want to, or just go ahead and go with a natural order. I'm going to go ahead and set a call sign, because I want them in the order of the call sign, because that's the way they want them in the bureau. So if you go ahead and print them out that way, then you can kind of keep them in a closer order. And besides, these are going to direct, so it really doesn't matter. So click Next, and we can leave that name, so all we got to do now is click Finish. Now the contacts table is in there with the one field Address. So let's go over here to Design. We do not want a footer, so we'll go ahead and collapse that one by clicking and dragging it up. We do not want a header as well. All we want is the detail section. Now we're going to increase this detail section, so click and drag on the top of the gray box right there. Just click and drag it. And the reason I'm doing that is my labels is 1 and 33 inches, 1 and 1/3 inch tall. So the rulers are set on 1/8 of an inch. So you're kind of going to have to kind of guess about where 2/3 or 1/3 is. So that's just a little over a quarter right there. So we'll go ahead and drag it up to there. Now we should have the same right size of label. Now what we need to do is we're going to put in that address. Now the address is a large field, so we'll probably either want to use DB memo, or you can actually use DB rich text box if you want to. But we're going to go ahead and use this DB memo here. So click on it, come down here and just click again, and it's going to put that field in there. Go ahead and kind of center it up on the label, and we're going to expand it out to the full size of the label. Now what we need to do is assign that DB memo field to the address label in the contacts table. So there's the contacts table, and we want to click on the down arrow, and there's the address. Okay, so now that's in there. Now you can make it pretty large, so it's already set at 18, and you can bold it if you want. So now we've got that done, so let's go to preview, and there's our addresses for all the directs, and that's the only page it's going to print. Now what you'll want to do now is, if it's looking good to you, actually what I'm going to do, just for visual purposes only, I'm going to put a rectangle in here. So I'll come up here to shapes, come down here, drop a rectangle in there, and I'm going to make that rectangle the same exact size as this detail section. So I'm going to size it to the detail section. Now then, if you look here now, that box is actually covering up the label. So what we don't want that, so we want to right click on it and send to the back. Now the addresses label is going to be actually on top of the rectangle. Now let's go to preview. Now this is the reason I did that, is that way you kind of can see the outline of what the labels would look like. Now if you remember right, I told you there was 14 labels to it, so there's 7 rows and 2 columns. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all 14 are not showing up. So I've got the wrong size on here. So let's come over here. I'm going to decrease that a little bit. I'm going to grab this, move it up a little bit, and now I'm going to move that back down. Now let's go back here and look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now it's printing right. Now what I do, and you'll probably want to do the same thing, that way you don't waste your labels, is go ahead and print this out on a plain sheet of paper. Then what you can do is take that plain sheet of paper and take a sheet of your labels and put the address on top of the labels and hold it up to a real bright light. I usually take it to the window and put it over a window during the daylight hours, and that way you can tell whether these are aligned up correctly. If they're not aligned up, then you'll have to just go in here and either play with the height of this, or come back over here into page setup and play with your margins here or the layouts here. So if you look at mine, I think it's going to be fine on mine. But in case if you're too far to the left or too far to the right, you're going to have to go in here. And this is what's so tedious about this, is you have to align it and make sure it prints, and you just have to make minute adjustments to the page setup, either here in this or over here on your margins. Now you can also increase your size, your labels here. So now if you come over here, I've got them all off again, so I need to move that back up. You can make minute adjustments here, but that's, like I said, that is a tedious part of creating the labels, getting it lined up. But once you get it done and get it lined up the first time, then from now on out you won't have to make adjustments unless you switch labels. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and delete that rectangle box so it's no longer in there, and there's my direct labels. Okay, so now we're going to go up here to File and Save. Now we're going to give this a unique name, so we're going to type address label, and then I usually put the number of the labels, so these are 8162s, and then I'm going to click Save. Now then, that report is, or my address labels are done, so I can go ahead and close this out. Now then, to print your address labels, what you'll need to do is go to Report Explorer and go down here, Standard Labels, or go to My Reports and bring up the labels. Then you can go ahead and click the preview, and then go up here and click Print. And then that will print your labels. Alright, with that said, I do believe that concludes this section of this video. Thank you for watching, and stand by for the next few videos. Thank you very much.